All right, so in this little tutorial, we're going to attempt to repair the cruise control functions on a C5 Audi A6 all-road S6 RS6, all the same. Usually, what you end up getting or having an intermittent fault where the cruise won't set, or you'll hit the resume, accelerate button or whatever, and the cruise shuts off. It's usually related to the contacts inside the cruise switch, and I've already taken it out of the car. It's pretty simple. You got to remove the steering column upper and lower shroud, and then that's after removing the steering wheel, and then there's a little clamp around this whole area with a bunch of plugs, and it'll lock them out. So we're going to take this apart, and I'll show you how it works inside, and we'll go from there. I've already removed the resume on and off switch, which is it's just clipped on top of this. What you see, that little peg sticking out there. So you just kind of get a screwdriver between these two parts here, and kind of pry it off. So we've done that. We'll flip it around. There, you got to put a little pin in here and separate the two, and then this plug, or pry the two apart, and this plug will slide back and out. So you can see how that little ramp in the middle engages with another ramp there. See, so you kind of when this is together, or when this is assembled, it's just pushed up, the two ramps engage. You got to get something in between the two parts there, disengage it, pull it down, and then we've got to disengage it from this little tab. There's this little tab here that holds this ribbon in. Just be a little careful, and we sort of pry it apart and then pull it out. So you've kind of pulled it out of that whole channel, and then we get to the part here of taking the actual cruise control stalk out of, or cruise control switches out of the turn signal stalk. So, and you can see this little piece here has these little tabs on the end. Sorry for the lighting and the camera and everything else, but see the little tab there that fits into this little slot here. So when you first go to take this apart, you got to put a little something in here to disengage this pin here from inside this. So once you start disengaging that, you can start pulling it all up. Again, more clamps here, or more little clips there, two more clips there, then there's a couple of clips here, and the whole thing falls out. So here again is the back side of it. This is where this button here was installed on this little peg, and you can see how this engages with a couple of tabs inside the back side of the turn signal stalk. So this is basically your whole cruise control function switch here. So you've got this is cancel, off, on, set, and resume. So now I'll go and take this apart for you guys, and I'll be right back and show you how this whole thing sort of functions. All right, now that we've got the switch apart, I can kind of explain how this all works internally. Again, this came off the top here, and all that's holding it in is a couple or four little tabs here. 1, 2, 3, 4. That holds the whole thing together. Once you pull this off, it is spring loaded. There is a spring on this pin here. This pin is what gives you that springy sensation when you're canceling, turning off, or resuming cruise functions. So when you go to cancel, you're pulling this towards the right side of the vehicle, and it's climbing this ramp, and when you go to the off position, it runs over the top of this little peak and sits in this little valley again. So that's the different positions in relation to the pin that you see here, which is spring loaded. So you kind of pulling it this way and that pin is riding up and down on that little tab. Now if you can see these four traces here that are offset slightly, when you cancel cruise, you're basically breaking the contact between these two pins. So that's when you cancel the cruise. You're pulling that in this direction. You break this connection here, and that cancels cruise. To turn cruise off, you also have to break this connection. So you pull it even further to the right, and now you've canceled this connection and this connection. To set cruise, you not only have to short these two connections here, basically make a circuit between them, but you also have to have the prerequisite to setting cruise is that these two connectors and these two connectors have to also be, form a circuit independently. So these two form a circuit and these two form a circuit. So, unless all 6 of these connectors are working, your cruise isn't going to set. Usually these get all gummed up and dirty like these are. I'm just going to clean them off real good. I'm going to take this set button off, which is just held in with this little, you can see a little tab here on the bottom that holds in the, right there. This little tab holds in the set button. Take all that off, clean it off, put it back together, and it should be good to go. I do have a little abrasion here on this, on the ribbon cable right in this area here. I'll investigate that just to be sure that you know, there's no issues here. You've got a little bit of this coating that's been rubbed off here, but I don't think that's an issue. I've never seen one broken. I mean, it does have. You can see now that I've completely disassembled the switch and cleaned these contacts. I also took a little bit of some Scotch-Brite and cleaned off any oxidation that may have built up on these contacts over the years. Should be all pretty good. Set button spring. Here's the spring that holds the pin in. Now I did not clean off this this section here because you do need a little bit of lubrication for the pin to slide, and that's basically what's gotten these all dirty. Was, you know, over the years, the grease that was factory installed here for this pin has kind of worked its way into the contact. So I'm going to start assembling this. I'm going to clean off this. I'm going to clean these off as well, and then we'll get back to testing this with an ohm meter, see how it works. So as a matter of fact, on this car I do have a wiring issue, and it is this trace that that I was questioning earlier. It's broken here, and I can actually make it come on by just bending it slightly. I've got an ohm meter across the two terminals that would normally turn the cruise function on, but yeah, it's broken in here, and I'm gonna have to repair this. Maybe replace this entire ribbon with something else, or another ribbon, something a little more stout perhaps. But yeah, due to I know all the years of it abrading against the plastic here, it hasn't fared well. All right, so now that I've actually gone and fixed this thing, we just installed some stranded IDE cable, which I think is what it should have been made of, you know, to begin with. So I've basically soldered 6 connectors here, and then reused this end here and soldered to this side. So right now we're off. There's no connections. As soon as I turn this switch on, we should have a signal here, basically signaling the ECU that the cruise is on. And there we are. And then back off. All right.